All right, in this demonstration, we're going to do a Omega scan of a TLSO. So we need to go to the home page or the desktop for Omega. And we're going to take our mouse and go to Add Patient, left click, and we need to fill in the window with patient's first name, and we're going to use capital letters, and again, you can choose whatever name you want. I just do PM for patient model, and then initials. Go down to the next for first and last. I usually just repeat whatever sequence you want to use. Just as long as you can remember what it is. Again, if you're working in the real world, obviously you would be using your actual patient's name. For birth date, I always simply select in the mock world 0101 and choose a birth year. And then for the patient ID, again, just repeat whatever sequence you want to use so that you can remember the model that you're scanning. So then select Create, left click it, and Willowwood basically allows you or has models selected for transfemoral, transtibial, AFOs, but not for TLSOs within Omega. So we're going to select Other, and then left click Save, and then go into a new window with our patient information saved, and then we're going to left click Shape. Wait for everything to open up. Then we're going to go to the upper right hand corner of this window and hit the left click the down arrow, select Scan a Shape, Scan Settings, left click that. There's a new down arrow, we'll left click that, and in this room we're going to select the light option for the lighting in the room. Left click the Scan Shape, wait for everything to load, make sure that you have everything hooked up correctly, and then you should see this kind of 90-degree green and red arrow. This tells us that we're ready to go ahead and begin scanning. So move everything out of your way, grab your scanner, and in the scanning process, once we start scanning, we're going to see a big red crosshair show up on our patient. I like to, again, be about 12 inches away. Click the trigger button on the scanner, and once we see that red crosshair, your starting point is an area, if you start laying down data and everything's working fine but then stops, you can always go back to that point and start over if data is not being collected. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to start right at the chest wall, and we can see that red crosshair. Okay, unfortunately, I'm going to have to get into the camera angle at certain points as I'm collecting data. So I'll do that first and then stay out of the way as much as possible. And try to cover as many of these little white reflectors that we've placed all over the patient model. And just work your way around the patient. Okay. I'm going to ask my patient, to move his arm out of the way as I work my way around to the patient. Again, staying 12 inches away, keeping that red crosshair on the patient at all times. Again, slow and steady wins the race when it comes to scanning with the Omega system. Again, looking back at the computer screen, which we'll move to here so that you can see what we're actually collecting in terms of data. So I'll have him keep his arm up. If you get any wrinkles in your cotton stockinette, which is part of our prep, so we've taken a piece of 10 or 12 inch cotton stockinette, depending on the size of your patient, pulled that over the patient, used a piece of black electrical tape, pulled it through the waist groove just to help identify that area. Place the dots every inch to inch and a half all the way around the patient, and then we begin our scanning process. So I'm going to work all the way around this side. I'll have you lift your left arm for me now, just so that we don't get that arm into the scan. Just having the patient hold steady as best he can. This should allow me to get pretty much all the way around the patient. I can clearly see my computer screen, and this looks like I'm getting really good data. Patient can breathe, he doesn't have to hold his breath. But because I cannot get back to where I started, I get as much data as I can and then just work my way back. You can go ahead and lower your arm. Thank you. You can lower your arm. And I'm going to go back to where I started. Again, this comes with an audible sound, which I have turned off. But I'm going to finish where I started. Now we'll move the camera back to the computer screen. It's already there. And now I'm going to select the Inspect Shape option. It's going to take a few minutes to render all the information, compile it, and it will show me if I have any missing areas of data. I'm going to straighten it out. And anything that shows up as green are areas that show up as missing information. So I'll get this pointed straight at me, and then I'm going to hit the 360 button, and this will spin it around in space. Now the black is actually the waist groove that I taped off. Anything that shows up as extra data, that would be his arms, and I can go back and go ahead and remove that. So I'm going to hit the 360 button again. This is spinning it around in space. I can see artifact or areas noise. I can go in and edit that out. Okay? But for the most part, this is a pretty good scan. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the edit button now. I do have this rotated slightly, but I want to get rid of some of this. This is his arms. I don't need that in there. So I can hit the erase button and go in here and right click and erase some of this data. Again, I don't need that. Spin the model around manually now and see if there's any other areas. Up here is another area. I have to be on the areas. See if it'll let me erase that. There we go, got rid of that. And any other areas, both top and bottom, that are artifact. I think that's about it. So I'm going to reorient the model, get it so it's pointed straight at me. Tilt it. And then save it. Very important. So I'll go ahead and save now. Again, anteriorly with the proper tilts, and now I can go ahead and align this shape. So I'll slide. This is my tilt and rotation. I'm going to go back to this and tilt again. And with this, I'm going to tilt it. This allows me to tilt forward and backward and then slide it forward. So what I'm trying to do here is just to get this so that the mandrel will run straight through this model. So I'm going to tilt this back and then slide it back. And it'll tilt forward just a little bit. And then again, slide. So everything appears to run straight through it this way. I'm going to slide just a little bit to the left. And now again, slide to the left. That looks good. The orientation looks good in that respect. Looks very good in this respect. I'm just going to slide it downward just a little bit. All right, so my orientation here on the very left looks very good. Center looks good. And the right looks very good as well. So again, I'm going to save. I can go to the cleanup mode. And all of this can get filled in. In terms of scanning, that is the scanning process for TLSOs. And we are done.